Lee, it is an absolute pleasure always to talk to you, but always on Charter Day. We know you bleed Triton green. You've been such a part of the university. Before we start and everything, what does it mean to you to have been, an integral part of the DNA, of the fabric, of the heartbeat of UOG for such a long time?
Yeah, great question, Jason. And it's always a pleasure to communicate with you and to know our background for many aspects. When you look back as a career, I've been here sitting at the university now for 32 years as an administrator for a little over 20. So I've given, I think the best I can possibly give as a person to the university. But it's kind of a trite saying, it's what I've gotten back from being here, being part of this, that has improved my life. I've tried to lead and to be able to do the best I can. But in reality, it's the community that has supported this college, the community that has supported me. I wouldn't have been here this long, Jason, if I didn't have the love that I believe I've shared with the university that they have given back to me. So it's a win-win situation. We're an integral part of this community. There's nothing as special to me of having a university on a small little island. I thank the past presidents. I thank the earlier founders of the idea of having a university on a small little island, and we've contributed a tremendous amount, whether we're talking about the College of Natural and Applied Sciences, or today we're going to talk about the brand new School of Engineering. We're an integrated part of this community. So it's my pleasure. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And you have done an absolutely fantastic job, like no doubt. I do want to talk now about, as you said, for the engineering school, transforming lives, advancing communities, obviously the theme of Charter Day, or as it were this year, Charter Month. Even with the School of Engineering being the newest college and, having graduated its first cycle of engineering graduates last year, the vision exceeds far beyond the current moment and the plans and everything, and the achievements are well established to this point and everything. So how do you feel, the School of Engineering has already lived up to that billing of transforming lives, advancing communities?
Absolutely. I mean, being able to have our first cohort graduate last semester, I think proves our commitment of trying to answer the call that instead of bringing in civil engineers from off island, especially even from the mainland US, that now we're producing local men and women who grew up on this island, who know this island better than anybody who would ever be able to bring into. So the transformation of lives, Jason, is that now we have a cohort of individuals that have in their heart, like I have in my heart and you in your heart, the love for this island. And they're going to do a lot better only because they understand where we have been and where we're going. So transforming lives is the beginning of producing young professionals that the need of civil engineers, and that's just one need, hopefully one day and many years from now, we'll do mechanical and perhaps electrical engineers. But right now, the emphasis is on civil. And I think, not only, and Jason, not only for Guam, but we're hoping to get transfer students from the community colleges throughout the region that want to not have to go that far, that can come to Guam, get civil engineering degrees, and then go back to the Republic of Palau or the Republic of the Marshall Islands or the Federated States of Micronesia.
And you only have to be a couple of time zones away. You don't have to be literally on the other side of the planet.
Thank you. Exactly. So that's how we're transforming lives. And
there's your recruiting pitch right there.
Yep, that is it. You're right. Thank you.
Well, yeah. and speak to that for a moment, please, Doc, because the nature of work these days, I mean, engineering has always been, like a very interesting profession to be in, because it's never an 8-to-5 job, but, workforce has changed, and the way young people expect to work and they expect to be productive has certainly changed over the last 2 years. How is the school adapting to regional changes, to attitudinal changes?
Well, really good question. And I think how we're beginning to answer that is through our internship program. So we not require, but we strongly encourage them to get part of an internship program with local companies, both private and public, as they proceed through their degree in as their bachelor's degree. So them getting involved early on gets them the awareness of what it takes to work as hard as that they're going to be required to work once they get that license to be able to go out there and become a civil engineer. So I think, Jason, the key is, and what's been so great is that the community of engineers have reached out to us and have said, please, we want your students earlier on. We want to start teaching them what we're doing in the public and in the government. So I think they've reached to us already by saying we want them as early as possible. And I think that's how it's going to be. And then we have to make sure that our curriculum is able to produce the students that they want. So we go and ask them what they're looking for as well. And I think that's been able to be a great success. And listen, my Dr. K, who is sitting in this position way longer than I have been in, reached out to the community and went to them and said, this is what we plan to do, help us. And they have been great partners with this brand new school.
And I know Dr. K had the dream for a school of engineering for a very, very long time. Even when I was an undergrad back in the early 90s, he envisioned that way long ago.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that early. As you know, I've always said that we were able to move this forward because not our current president, but obviously Dr. Underwood also had a mission to push this forward. And our current president and vice president is really behind making sure that we get the accreditation that we need in time and the funding and the amount of people that we need to hire to make sure that all this works together as a team.
Sure. And given the success of the first cohort, and I love the fact that you frame it exactly as that, it was a cohort of students, it wasn't just 15 random souls who kind of like wandered around and took classes independently. It was a group of young, eager minds who went through, the process together and then graduated together. What do you see as some of the academic strengths of the college, even though we're in the very early days? I mean, there's a lot to build on, but there's also a lot you can be proud of right now.
Sure. And I'm glad you brought that point up because, listen, in any degree program, whether it's biology or chemistry and now in engineering, it's important that they follow a path. And the cohort was just that. You rely, and maybe you have to think about when you were going to school. I don't think you did it independently. I think, you had to do certain things independently, but there are many challenges, especially in the field of engineering, whether it's dealing with mathematics or dealing with physics or dealing with the courses that they have to take. A lot of the concepts are very difficult, and the best way to do it is to work closely with the individuals that you see in that same class, hour after hour, day after day, year after year, working together. Sometimes, even though you have to pass the exam at the end by yourself, it's that group effort of coming together and using each other to help them get through this process. And I think that's been our success. Listen, we've hired some really good faculty members, and that's helped too. And I praise Dr. K for that, getting people in who he believes have kind of give the different angles of what it's going to take to get these individuals to be able one day to pass the final exam, not only here at the university, but the professional exam that they'll hopefully take one day.
Yeah, we had the great pleasure of talking to one of the first graduates from the School of Engineering, and he even said, he goes, the faculty was amazing, the curriculum was well laid out and organized in a logical fashion, but he's like, I could not have done this if it wasn't for the support of my fellow students. He's like, we got through this together, and it wasn't just one of us, it was all of us.
That's right. And that's, what, isn't that great? And he was wonderful. And then you might know that he became if we're talking about the same person, Then he became the valedictorian.
And you did.
Yeah. And
so he did quite well.
Yes, he did quite well. But even somebody like that, who is that bright intellectually, knew that, perhaps he could have done it on his own, but he didn't. He relied on his fellow students to help push that. And that's the success of any program. And it's going to be our success of that school our current school to get us forward.
Sure.
Maybe one day, young man, when you do a PhD, you have to basically do it by yourself. That shows that. But at this level, it's working together to do that. We require that cohesiveness of a class working together on, especially in undergraduate programs.
Well, in Afamalik, that is literally what our island is built on, and we take care of our people. We grow together. We survive together. We rebuild together, and maybe with the teachings of your school, we build bridges together, literally and figuratively.
That's great. Good. You know what? I wish I had said that line, Jason, but that's right. We build bridges together. And
There you go. You just did.
Okay,
you can have that one.
And we did it through the School of Engineering. That's great. Thank you.
So how about with maybe the class of 2027, 2028, even 2040 and everything? What do incoming students who aspire to take up, the monumental challenge, which is, contemporary engineering, what do they have to look forward to, and how do you continue to evolve the curriculum, to meet their needs and make sure that they are cutting edge?
Sure. And I think, in that many years ahead, I'm hoping that once we get this program accredited in civil engineering, that we will hire more faculty that can work on other disciplines under engineering. I said a little bit earlier, mechanical engineering is another prime degree program. Electrical engineering is another prime program that this community will need over time. So if you are going to look ahead, Jason, the key is to be able to have a good foundation, that people see that if they come here, that they'll get a foundation that will allow them to do what? What do you want to do after you graduate? To be offered numerous job opportunities. You want a degree that they know that will carry them to their profession. And I think in time, in the next 10 to 15 to 20 or 30 years, Jason, that we'll be able to produce young men and women that will fit the niche that we're going to need. Listen, we could use electrical engineers now. We can use mechanical engineers now. We're just not ready yet, but in time we will be. And I think once the community sees how well these young men and women are doing, both here on Guam and regionally, that we are not going to have any problem getting new individuals. And one last thing, Jason, we need to also partner with our public schools and our private schools right now. Indeed. To make sure that the math background and the science background is appropriate levels for them to learn at young ages, to be able to start the learning process, at elementary school and middle school. And there's no reason why these young men and women can't go and be young mentors, and almost a requirement to go in and say, this is a wonderful field, but this is what you need to take to be able to come into this program ready as young individuals. So that's
so Doc, we wrap up, and we've talked about the recruiting pitch for future Tritons, and like what the current cohorts now enjoy, but externally to UOG, what does industry, what does the government, what does the federal government, what do they stand to benefit from the product that you're putting out there?
Yeah, well, they are always coming to us, Jason, and looking for individuals that can fill a huge workforce development niche. They all the time, just recently, I got a request from Department of Public Works saying, how can we help? And how can we get these current young men and women interns so they can see what we're doing? The federal government will come to us even stronger once that ABET certification program is part of our credential. So, and industry, my good Lord, I mean, they're on my case all the time saying, how do we get your students? How do we do it? And a lot of the current students right now are looking for government jobs, but I think that one day they'll be looking for private jobs, especially in the federal government. As you know, and maybe you don't know this, but until we can actually get licensed, Jason, ABET program, it's a little harder for them to go into the federal programs. But once that's accomplished, and we'll get that done in the next couple of years, then that opens up huge areas for these young men, not only to work on Guam and women, but to work for the federal government all over the United States.
And clearly you're also building this wonderful legacy and tradition that all the other UOG colleges and schools have had, for generations now, but now you come out with a UOG engineering degree and you are seen as, best in class and capable and competent and, hardworking. So, yeah, I mean, for youngsters out there considering engineering, that you've got a reputation to uphold.
That's right. And listen, we didn't offer that 10 years ago, even though there was something thought about. Now we have it. Now we have that ability for young men and women who already have that interest to say, wow, I can stay here on Guam and I can get my degree at the University of Guam so that I can either stay here or go on and help my family and help my community somewhere else. So I think that's a plus.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, always a pleasure talking to you and everything like that. Hopefully we're going to be able to do this face-to-face one day.
Yeah, I hope so too, Jason, because I miss you. I do.
Certainly. Well, likewise. I mean, you've always been like a good friend and a mentor and everything. And UOG is like, your presence at UOG is felt and is greatly appreciated. And as an alum, I'm very, very happy that you're there.
Great. Thank you so much. And whatever it takes. And we need people like you that are willing to come and say how good we are. I mean, sometimes, Jason, we don't get the message out as well as we should. So I want to thank KUAM for at least even doing this, because I think it's important that we get this, we message this constantly, how good we are and how appropriate it is to have a university on such a small island. So,
well, trust me, the pleasure is all mine. I honestly can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. Like, top of the world, Mom. Like,
okay.
Can I trouble you, Doc, to do
Sure.
One thing, because it is like Charter Month? Can I get you to say Viva UOG, Viva School of Engineering?
Oh yeah, Viva UOG and Viva the School of Engineering, and come to campus. We're having a lot of different events over the course of this next month. So, our doors now are becoming open as new regulations, that Jason, we're doing more things. So I think that's great. So
Absolutely.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. You take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.